Hey folks, I'm doing this live broadcast as promised. Going to be talking about the important timing that we've seen in this impeachment trial. And it's going to be a case study. It's an astrological case study. It's not a political report. Honestly, those who want to just, you're free to talk. But I'm not going to engage in political battle so much here about any of it. I'm just going to actually use this as a case study and, speak in general about what we can generally see and what I said at the beginning, what was going to be coming out and what we were going to be, what we can really understand about this beyond politics. So it's, as it says, impeachment case study timing beyond politics as well. And of course, since it is an impeachment case study, the politics is built into it. But I also just want to make sure that people do know, I do have the banner up on the screen that you can get the 2020 forecast, Vedic Astrology forecast. If you haven't gotten it yet, go to the website and get that. I just put a link there for people. And I'm really just going to be focusing on a couple indicators and a couple charts that I have. And it's actually two charts that show this impeachment when it was first voted on and when the trial began. These are the two things that I'm going to be showing, the two charts, because those are the two most important charts. This first chart here, and I showed this several months ago. Now, I had said before any of this even happened that he would be impeached. He was going to get impeached after all that stuff started with, once we saw what came out with the whistleblower and what was actually underneath all of this, on a basic level, it needed to be investigated. And that eventually I thought it was going to lead to his impeachment because it was so obvious what had happened. Before that, though, there was just a lot of stuff in the media, and I said eventually they started doing the hearings and stuff like that. But then there was a formal impeachment vote, and this is the chart for the formal impeachment vote in the House. The moment that the House ratified opening the formal impeachment hearings in the House, and that took place on October 31st, 2019 at 11:29 a.m. And this was the chart. We have the ascendant Jupiter Moon all Gandanta between Scorpio Sagittarius. So with Jupiter, especially Jupiter Moon and the ascendant, were all in this place that's called Gandanta, which is between two signs. Now this is the exact moment of the impeachment vote. The ascendant had just moved from Scorpio to Sagittarius. The ascendant is the earth turning. As the earth is turning, that's what the ascendant is. And Jupiter Moon here, geez, these pop-ups are annoying. This Jupiter Moon is right at the edge of Scorpio as well. You can see Jupiter's 2909 and the moon is 2942. So again, Jupiter comes around here. The last degree of Scorpio, it hasn't been there for 12 years, right? Jupiter only hits this mark once about every 12 years. Now, it went retrograding back, but still, at this point, hardly ever. The moon, again, the moon moves very fast. So, again, it was in the nakshatra at the point, right at the very last, half an hour or so of being in Scorpio before going into Sagittarius. And the ascendant had just flown by that point. Whoosh, all of them. This was at the moment that the House did the impeachment vote. Okay? That's the moment the House did the impeachment vote. That's the chart. Now, this was the day after the House voted to have the impeachment. Then they went through the House trial and they actually did the impeachment. where they declared that he was impeached in the House, forever impeached. It never goes away. Then what happened is Pelosi held up the articles and did all this stuff. And then finally they were delivered. There were a few motions behind the scenes, but then the actual impeachment trial in the Senate began. Actually, I think it was 1 p.m. Yeah, it was actually 1 p.m. on this date. So the ascendant would actually probably be Taurus. But this day, what I wanted to show is this Gandanta with Saturn here also. This Gandanta with Saturn right at the edge, just about to go into Capricorn. So Saturn was then right at the edge of Sagittarius, about to go into Capricorn when the Senate began the impeachment. Again, you have to understand, this is Saturn's final, Saturn went into Capricorn on January 24th. Again, this is finishing a 2.5 year, almost 3 year, 3 year off and on transit. And it was 2 days after, or I'm sorry, 2 days before the shift. You have to understand, when Saturn entered Sagittarius, 3 days before Donald Trump was inaugurated. So Trump gets inaugurated on January 21st, I think, of 2017. Saturn had just moved into Sagittarius a couple days before. Then on the last couple days of his transit in Sagittarius, formal impeachment articles are opened. Right as he's leaving, and again, you see this, what's called Gandanta, in between these two signs, 2948 of Saturn. Again, Saturn is even slower. Saturn only hits this point every 30 years, 28 to 30 years. And he hits that point right when they open up the impeachment inquiry. So you can see the similarities here between these charts. And the Jupiter moon right at the last degree between Scorpio and Sagittarius, when the first votes were taken to actually open the formal impeachment inquiry. All of this Gandanta here between these two. And then once they start formal impeachment, Saturn is about to go into Capricorn. Now, again, it's not just significant because of what these, because of the last degrees and the Gandanta, but it's also significant of what those planets mean. Because because first of all, Jupiter is the planet of justice. Finding justice, finding the truth. And it was Jupiter about to move into Sagittarius that started the impeachment vote and said, we have to find justice here. After Jupiter going through Scorpio back and forth, things behind the scenes, shady deals or whatever. This is Jupiter in Scorpio. Jupiter about to go into Sagittarius for the penultimate time, because Jupiter poked his head in Sagittarius earlier in the transit and then went back into Scorpio. Now he's making his last pass in Scorpio, the last degree, and going into Sagittarius. That's when they open the inquiry into the justice and finding out and conducting the House inquiry, so that they could actually vote to impeach or not. Then what happens is the articles go to the House, or I'm sorry, then they go to the Senate. And when they went to the Senate, we have the Saturn transit. Again, Saturn is now about consequences, verdict. We have this, how the Senate, which is like the old institution. It's called the upper house, the upper chamber. It's more solemn, supposedly. But it's right as Saturn is going into Capricorn that we have the trial begins in the Senate, and where they're going to render the verdict of justice and actually really ponder and concentrate on all the evidence, and the consequences and the verdict come out. So Jupiter is very much about the justice system and seeking justice. And Saturn is about the verdict, consequences in life and in astrology, and in this case. We see it very clearly. You want to understand, and I'm just going to make this very clear, this is a incredible case study for the sidereal zodiac as well. Again, people wonder, oh, I don't know, tropical sidereal, just can't figure it out. This is the reason people like myself, or I'll just say why myself use sidereal zodiac. Tropical zodiac, this is completely non-existent. This has nowhere. It's just falling in the, Saturn has been in Capricorn, Jupiter's been in Sagittarius. Sidereal, and this is sidereal zodiac with Lahiri and Amsha. It's very close, but you see this. This is why they talked about things like Gandanta and Sandhi and in-between signs. This is what you see. Energy shifting, energy unpredictable, energy changing from, well, there's this crazy thing that happened, so now we're going to have to vote to impeach. This shift from Scorpio to Sagittarius with Jupiter, then this shift of Saturn, who had been in Sagittarius the entire time of Trump's presidency. Since he was inaugurated, Saturn was in Sagittarius. To 2 days before he moves into Capricorn, a trial in the Senate begins. Again, this is totally sidereal transits, including the sidereal transit of Saturn going into Sagittarius right before Trump is sworn into office. This is like a total rock solid case study for sidereal zodiac as well. So for the most part, these are things that I talked about and that I mentioned and that I had said before it happened. 1 second, let me take a drink. I had said as soon as this thing started, or all the rumors started, like in, I guess, September or whatever, I was like, you watch, he's going to get impeached. And because this was so obvious of what had happened, the comments of the whistleblower, plus all that other stuff that went on. And then, of course, once they opened up the trial in the House, not the trial, but the hearings, sorry. The hearings in the House, you could see all the corroboration. All of it was like, okay, this is clearly what happened. And what we just saw, even as this wraps up in the Senate, you even have, or I said he's going to get impeached in the House, and more than likely he won't get convicted in the Senate. The other thing that I said was they're making a huge mistake trying to wrap this up quick, wrap it up quick. I said the longer it drags out, the worse it is, the worse it would be for Trump because of this Saturn going through Capricorn. Because we were going to see, we're going to really see this pressure mount as Saturn goes through Capricorn. And these consequences mounting. And again, Nancy Pelosi could have, if she would have held back, she could have held back those articles longer. Wasn't hurting her. Again, the press and all this political crap, they don't know what they're doing. Sorry, but this is why I don't, I look, she turned them over, and then she invited him to speak at the State of the Union and on the same day, just to make it seem like, oh, everything's fine. He had just been impeached. Anyway, but the point is what I said was that Saturn works its way through Capricorn. It would get worse. By the way, it's going to. Now, it's also very scary. Again, they blew that. I have no doubt of the Democrats' capacity to kind of really bungle it, because they also didn't bind the articles of impeachment correctly. They didn't put crimes in it. They should have put the crimes that he's already been charged as an unindicted co-conspirator on, which were the previous campaign violations that his lawyer is in jail for. This is actually obviously a matter of record of law, that Trump's lawyer is in jail now and Bob Mueller even sat in the Senate and said, well, he was asked the question, would you convict Donald Trump if he wasn't in office? And Mueller said yes, for obstruction of justice. There's, again, Trump's lawyer is in jail for carrying out Trump's directives to obstruct the 2016 election. They should have put this in the impeachment articles as a pattern of conduct and as crime as well. They have a canceled check for Michael Cohen that Trump wrote as president to pay him off for those crimes. Again, without getting too into the weeds about it, because the other thing that I said is we were going to see the truth of all of it. We're going to see the truth. And again, the truth isn't, oh, he's going to get convicted. Oh, no, he's not. Oh, this, oh, that. No. We're going to see the truth that the Democrats are just political animals as well. It's all political calculus. It's all trying to, not seem so offensive to this or that, instead of just being just. Instead of coming down on just hard on what really happened. To me, what we're seeing is that both parties and the political system itself is so broken. Within that, it seems, in fact, it's not even that it seems this way, but even the Republican senators who have vowed to acquit, who vowed to not even call witnesses, impeachment trial where this has never happened, where you don't even call witnesses. They get up and say you don't have enough evidence, and the witnesses that could give the evidence, we're going to block them. We're seeing just the total hypocrisy in that regard. But even the senators that agreed to do that said, yeah, the House managers proved the case. Yeah, we believe he did it. We don't need to see any more evidence. But we don't think he should be impeached. We think he actually elicited a foreign government to help block our election, but we don't think he should be impeached. Literally coming out and saying that. Marco Rubio said, even if you prove that he should be impeached, that doesn't mean we should remove him from office. So again, just seeing the truth of the whole thing. Back to the Democrats and their politicizing of the whole thing as well. So this Saturn continuing through Capricorn and this verdict of, and this pressure of time is going to wear and bear on what actually happened. It will come out. It will grind away for months and months. And we will see how, I think, the truth of both parties. For myself, I will say, because I'm not partisan in this regard, if it would have been a Democrat, I would be just as throw the bomb out. If it was a Republican or Trump or whoever, it's very clear what happened. 75% of the country wanted witnesses. And Republicans in the Senate blocked it. They said, we don't even want to hear from witnesses. And they say because the House didn't do their job. Yeah, the House didn't do their job because of unparalleled level of obstruction. Anyone who has looked at this with any objectivity sees this. So it doesn't matter. We're seeing the propaganda as well, at least in that regard. 75% of the people, which includes 50% of Republicans, wanted to see witnesses. And that's probably the 50% that aren't just totally cult members and brainwashed. Again, this brings it down to about 25% of hard Trump support, that just 25% of avowed Republicans, or I'm sorry, 50% of Republicans that are just hard support no matter what happens. They're just not going to believe it. Again, that's a reality. In spite of that, all of these people just covering their political butts. And again, Saturn grinding through Capricorn for the next 3 years. This is kind of like an initiating moment with this whole thing. And of course, the whole idea that, again, someone said, and it's fair to say you're ridiculous with your both sides crap. Both sides aren't traitors. Look, I'm going to say, obviously, in this case, there's no question that one side is complete obstructionist. You're absolutely right. When I'm saying both sides, though, the Democrats also played a lot of political games with this. And if they hadn't, it could have turned out different as well, because it would have been a lot harder to argue against crimes if they wouldn't have been so political about the whole thing. And they're also very politicized in the way the whole thing played out. But look, people can disagree about the politics. This is intended to be a case study with everybody hopefully being able to do astrology. Maybe not. Maybe it's just too charged and no one can do astrology and everybody can just get fired up about my political opinions. And if that's the case, sorry about that. But the point is, and my main point with it as well, is that this transition and the way this unfolded, as far as I'm concerned, is just remarkable and pretty clearly shown with these transits of Jupiter from Scorpio into Sagittarius first. You can see this Gandanta point, and this, as it's in between Scorpio and Sagittarius, they open up the hearings in the house. And then right before Saturn goes into Capricorn, we have the trial in the Senate, where the verdict comes out and the verdict of time has just begun to be cast. So we haven't really seen the implications of this yet. I also will say this, and again, it could surprise some people, and you can get pissed off at me if you want, I don't care. But I'm not sure that impeachment, look, I think he should have been impeached and removed from office just because we have to do what's right. And I think it's very clear that these arguments that were made that he could do anything and obstruct, and, you know, this is just a road to anarchy and a road to a kingdom and a road to dictatorship. Anybody listens to Alan Dershowitz arguments, and, you know, the arguments were too, it was, well, if the president thinks it's in his best interest, he could do anything and be above the law, basically, which is a preposterous argument. No one else thinks this. That, and this idea that, well, you didn't give enough evidence, and we're not going to let you call witnesses to give us enough evidence. This is the worst. This is the worst you've ever seen. And again, anyone watching this knows this is absolute horror show, that the Senate would abdicate their responsibilities this way. But I will say this, having said all of that, if he would have been impeached and removed impeaching and removing a president is it's a horrible thing that we don't know what would have happened in the country. We don't know. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm just thinking. I'm not as married into positions as people think. I personally think it would have been the right thing to do because it's the right thing to do. And you don't just do things for the moment. You do things also to set precedent, because the worst thing about this is the precedent that's being set. But I understand the fear of the people that didn't want to remove a sitting president from office. What they should have done, clearly, was allow the witnesses and allow the testimony. And if they would have done that, it's very clear, I think, even to them, that it would have been hard or impossible to then not remove him. Hard, if not impossible, to not remove him. And then they were afraid of that result. It just shows, again, it shows the truth of this political system we have, of all of the calculus that goes into it, and the system itself. Our system of government is just a mess. It's extremely corrupt. Those who think that there isn't some blame on the other side, it's just not true. There is blame on both sides. No false equivalence. I'm not equivocating, but I'm saying there was cynicism on the Democrat side as well. Not just cynicism, but political calculus. Nancy Pelosi signing the impeachment articles, handing out commemorative pens and all this crap. Like, it's just... Anyway, I don't want to get too into the weeds about that. It's essentially a case study. And the thing I'm saying here, though, is it's showing us the truth. This is the truth. Jupiter searching for justice. And we did see the truth. We're seeing the truth. We're seeing the truth and the just or lack of justice and where we need to find justice. Jupiter in Sagittarius is delivering that. And it's been rewarding to hear the truth being spoken. The reason it was good to do the impeachment, besides the outcome, in my opinion, is it's been great for those of us who want to hear the truth spoken finally, to see and hear them get up and say this stuff, and call it out. It's been great to see that. It's been great to see, Schiff and the other House managers, same way with to actually say this, and then to see the other side and watch what they say too. We're seeing it. It's out there. It's there now. It's not just like, well, who knows? We can see it now. We saw it. And we're still seeing it. And we're going to keep seeing it because it's not over. Because more information is going to be coming out. And we're going to see all of that in comparison to what has been done. So we are seeing the truth. This is what it is. This is what it looks like. And here's what I was saying about the whole political calculus that I'm talking about, is how long it took for the Democrats, for example, to actually do this because of all the political calculus. Oh, is it going to hurt us in the election? Is it going to hurt us? That's not why you do it. You do what's right because it's right. And when you do what's right, everybody sees what's there. You see it. So we're seeing it, and we've saw it. And we're seeing how people respond. That's why you do it. You bring it into the light. And that's what Jupiter in Sagittarius is it's bringing it into the light. It's bringing into the light what has been going on in all of its ugliness and glory. And, I'm a nuanced thinker in the sense of I can see where both are just, all of it drives me a little nuts. It drives me the most nuts is the media. They drive me crazier than the rest in that sense. Everything is false equivalence. I'm not saying everything is a false equivalence. But I'm also not going to say, oh, yeah, the Democrats are great, Republicans are horrible. No, that's not it either. There's a system that has it all locked up, which is money and power and all that, which I'm not going to go into. This is mainly a case study, but I also want to land it in the sense that what I said was going to be happening is in this sense, that we're seeing the truth. And there's something good about seeing the truth. There's something good about seeing the truth. I think it's going to be a very mobilizing force. Very mobilizing force. And we'll see the verdict really rendered on Election Day in 2020. We'll see the real verdict rendered. And what I was saying earlier about I would like to see him removed because I think he's going to cheat. I think all of this. But to some extent, the real verdict obviously will be shown as we vote. And hopefully this is, and I do think this is all toward a higher vibration, a higher level of consciousness as the old guard is dying. They're hanging on with white. They're hanging on, and the new wave is coming. That will hopefully also update all these outdated systems. These outdated systems and structures, and bring real reform to a system that is so corrupt with money and interest. So again, a great case study. It's a great case study in the sidereal zodiac as well, as Jupiter right on the verge of sidereal Sagittarius. We opened up the impeachment inquiry. Saturn right on the verge of moving from Sagittarius, where he had been for the whole Trump presidency. He had been there the entire time. The last 2 days, they open up impeachment inquiry. So again, beyond politics, it's more about seeing the truth. We're seeing it playing out in the political realm, but it's the truth of the world we're living in and the new era that's coming, hopefully. Of course, it's hard to not talk about the politics part. It's more of an astrological case study. The politics, though, again, it's just very clear. It's clear. Even the Republican senators who voted against witnesses said, it's clear he did it. Yeah, I get it. He did it. I don't need to see any more witnesses. That's literally what Lamar Alexander said. Marco Rubio said, well, even though you proved impeachment, that doesn't mean we should remove him from office. I mean, this is just like unbelievable. Saying, look, you proved your case. I get it. Yeah, he did it. But I don't want to see any more witnesses. They don't want to see any more witnesses because then it's going to drag out for a couple months of these people coming and saying what happened. And that's what they wanted to avoid. Because then they would have to throw them out. And they were scared of that and their own political butts. So nothing about that is pretty. But we're seeing the truth of that as well. And I think it's going to come back to haunt them. So everything in its time and place. And I hope you enjoyed this forecast. And again, if you are interested in finding 2020 and how that's going to affect you, you can go ahead and check that out. And I hope people can once in a while listen to politics without losing their mind, getting so upset, getting all. Look, again, I'll just say this last thing. I would feel the same way if it was Obama had did it or anyone had did it. And again, you can just see these actions and know that we should not be vesting a leader with this kind of corrupt motive and intention. He obviously did it. Nothing contradicts it. No one has contradicted it. And they won't even let you see the people or talk to the people, put them under oath that could exonerate Trump. No innocent person ever prevented the witnesses that could exonerate him from testifying. There is just nothing to question here. And if you question it, again, okay, feel free to question it. But no one has ever said, yes, I'm innocent, and I'm going to prevent the people that could exonerate me from testifying. I'm going to prevent the documents that could exonerate me from being released because I'm innocent. and it's all a hoax and a witch hunt. Said no one ever. And everyone knows it who is objective at all. Even, in fact, half of the Republicans wanted to see witnesses. So again, this is obviously what it is. And people who are just angry at me for saying this or think I just hate the press or whatever, it's all I'm so biased. Again, this is your wake-up call as well, to just see the truth. You could still like him. You could say, yeah, he's this way, but that's fine. Yeah, he did it, but that's fine. Or you can just go, nah, no, you're fake news. Nah. Again, I'm not going to stop saying the truth just because there are some people that are going to get just their head's going to explode. So this is the world we're in. And there you have it. So anyway, have a good one and share this with others if you think they'll enjoy it. I think it's a great case study on the sidereal zodiac and these planets moving and the huge shifts that happen when planets move, especially these outer planets, these slower moving planets, when they move into new signs. So take care.